Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. This is in the set of one shelf or rack at a time. I'm going to have to do this one a bit differently. It's the shelf with the most orchids on because it's a double shelf, you know, front and back, and it's a top shelf, so obviously it also gets bigger plants put on there because they won't fit anywhere else. And it's one of the bright ones. But I'm going to have to do it a little bit differently because I'm going to have to get each plant and hold them up to the camera. There's no other way of doing this. There isn't room on here to put them all, but I'm going to have to find room or put them on the floor. So I'm going to get them, bring them over, have a chat about them. Some of them are to go, so some of them will be with Carol probably next week. But nonetheless, we'll still have a look and a chat about them. As they're going to somebody else. I need to put my wine somewhere where the plants are not going to be, because there's plants over here that will not stand up. So they're leaning against either each other or something. And when they come over here, they are highly liable to fall over. So I'll probably just lean them up against the wall. So I'm just going to start and bring them over. Right. First of all, what we have here is some two berry odour kikis that were given to Hannah at the Wessex show by a member. I think there was a bit of insisting going on because Hannah knew she wasn't going to grow them herself. So Dad's got them. But they are active. We've got stuff going on here. Now whether those are going to be bloom spikes or kikis, because this is a bit of a kiki machine, I don't know. And we have a strong new growth coming up in the pot. So these are going to grow on, there's no doubt about that. These will grow on successfully. But the berry odours are a hybrid of, I've forgotten now, Kingianum, so Kingianum and something probably, and the Kingianum types and their various offspring and that are not my favourite dendrobiums, I'm afraid. They don't do a lot for me, and yet, I mean, berry odour's got the most gorgeous fragrance. It's all in the name, you know, but coming as an offshoot from Kingianum, you're looking at very tolerant of low temperatures, very fragrant, and should suit this place really well. So it might end up staying, I don't know. Okay, that was just plonked on there because there was a bit of space on the corner. It's not its special place by any means. Right, oh, now we've got a biggie. This is a monster. Now this is a monster with a rock in the there distorting the bucket, because that pot will not stay upright, and it never will, not with a plant like this sat on the top. So it's got a rock in the bottom trying to hold it still. A couple of leaves to come off here while I've got it in my hands. Now this is I'll do pop-ups for the names, because most of these probably haven't got tags on, although this one has. This is Dendrobium Sweet Pinky Momoko. And it's a funny one because it blooms several times during the year and won't settle down. But these are my two this year's canes, and despite a dodgy growing season under many circumstances due to the change in environment and everything, those are two good, strong canes. That's the terminal leaf, so that one's finished. Yeah, you can tell by the fact that it's normally smaller, relatively upright, and there's no sign of anything else growing. Yeah, whereas this one, the next leaf that's coming out here is smaller, but it's still growing. So that may or may not be a terminal leaf. It probably will be. And then we've got old canes, including one that's decided to throw a bloom out. These are massive. For a nobly type, these are massive blooms and very attractive. And despite it keep falling over and being a flipping nuisance and won't settle down, by settle down I mean have a blooming season where it does a mass blooming and then that's it. It then goes into growth mode. It just won't do that. It grows at odd times, and yeah, well, nonetheless the blooms are very attractive. So that's that one. And we will let that fall against the wall so that it doesn't fall over. We'll have a sip of our wine. If I don't get a move on, it's going to be dark, quite honestly. The light is going. Right. And then we've got another one that won't stand up on its own. And this is annoying when I look back. I try not to look back too much with this one. This one, best hybrid in show, many years ago. Dendrobium prima donna. And I'm not kidding you, it was a bush. Absolutely smothered in blooms. It was a showstopper and basically did. Whereas now it's not. But it's growing on again. It's been cut up into many pieces. Quite a few people have had bits of this. And I kept a piece to keep the strain going. And this has grown on quite nicely last year. This is the latest cane, so bigger than anything before, but not as big as it can be. This can get bigger than this. Not as big as that thing, but you know. So we've got a cane here that will bloom. That will bloom in the spring. And another cane here that is highly likely to bloom as well. We might get, I was just going to say, we might get some blooms on the older canes. Like that one and that one. It's just when you don't pick your plants up very often, like using the sprayer and stuff, things escape you like that. So there's 3 buds on that cane basically, if you look. One here, and one at the top. And they have an average of 2 to 4 blooms. That's not a huge strong cane, so possibly 2 blooms per spike there. So we've got anything between 6 and 10 blooms to come on that cane. There's no sign of any buds anywhere else. And certainly on the canes that have grown this year, they won't put up buds until into spring. When? Who knows? Because they won't get the rise in temperature that they should get in the spring to get them going. So I don't know what that will do. Might bloom late. It's going to do, you know, these types of dendrobiums are going to do funny things next year. Let's suck it out, Sam, out of the way, or I'm going to trip over it. Now this one is currently struggling. I hope it survives the reason it's struggling. And the reason it's struggling is it's a Latoria type and it's too cold for it. You know, we have some signs of I'm not happy, but it's not as bad as it could be. The lovely sheath on that new cane there, that's a cane that's grown this year, and at the moment it's in active growth. It's chucking new roots out left, right and centre. But that is Aussie Sweetness crossed with Tapiniense, which is a species, so a hybrid not too far away from a primary cross. But this could do with better nighttime temperatures and a lot better daytime temperatures. But who knows, the coolness might trigger it into blooms. On the, if I don't bloom I'm going to die and you know my strain will be lost. So sometimes a plant will bloom in desperation, but as I said, this could do with being kept warmer, it would do better. But if it comes out the other end of this winter, then I know that it is a Latoria type that will survive my lower temperatures, so it can stay. So that's that one. Quite a large plant, that one. Right, tucked over in here is a poor example of an epidendrum, reed cane epidendrum. Now Insa had a piece of this so that he had the colour set, because I think he already had red and yellow but he didn't have orange, so I sent him a bit of mine, so he's got an orange one. I hope his is growing better than mine, but this had a really bad attack of scale which almost took the plant down. I think I've managed to get rid of the scale, or not, you know, they're on their way out, let's put it that way. I mean, that was an adult and it just broke away from the cane. These are dead, so hopefully I've solved that. But whether this is going to put up with the cooler temperatures or not, I don't know. These are often found growing in people's gardens in the appropriate climate in full sun. They look atrocious. They're all tatty and dead leaves all over the place and an absolute mass of blooms. So that's their ideal environment. But whether you'd class them as a full terrestrial or a semi-terrestrial, I'm not sure. And there's many different types, so you know, it'd be species specific. But it has got some new growths, and hopefully it will push on a bit better next year. And it may fail miserably because of the lack of temperatures. I've got the light, likes bright light, but I haven't got the temperatures. So I'm not quite sure what that one's going to do. We shall wait and see. Right, this is another one that won't stay upright, so it lives in a clay pot to keep it upright. This is going to Carol. She can do with it as she pleases. It's a very attractive Phalaenopsis type dendrobium that has not got many roots. It's got some, but hardly any. And its latest new growth has failed because the current growing leaf has failed. So it's not going to grow any more now. It could potentially shoot out again from the centre of there, but I don't know whether it will or not. The hope for that plant will be to get it into better temperatures and get some growth from the base. In other words, get a new cane going and get that up to full strength. So yeah, that is Dendrobium Thai Angel. Had it years and years. It's been split several times and all sorts, but it's come to the end of my tether now because of the lack of temperatures, and I know it's never going to do well here. So if it doesn't go to somebody else, probably by the end of the winter it'll be dead. Now this is hanging in there. Again, a Latoria type. This is Dendrobium alexandriae. And this is the latest cane I've grown. And that's not bad. But it's a very weak grower, this one. It grows one cane a year. So this is the year before, and this is last year, or this year, current year. And that's about as well as it grows, and it should grow an awful lot better than that, it really should. It has beautiful blooms on it. Whether I'm going to see them again, I don't know, because it's not going to be happy with these low temperatures, but nonetheless, it's not failing. It's stopped growing, so I have to keep this quite dry, otherwise the roots will rot. But it's stopped growing. All I can hope for is it starts growing again when I hopefully get some better temperatures, if I ever do. So that's that one. Right, this one's going to Carol. Now this is Delicatum. So it's a naturally occurring hybrid in the wild. Now, I've got a catch-22 here. The decision that it's going to Carol is I can't get it to bloom. The way to get this to bloom is to drop the temperature right down in the winter. And I mean right down. This needs to go down like 5 to 8 degrees at night. Well, I can't do that in here because half the plants in here will die. And I can't be going out there and back in again every day with one plant. I personally can't be bothered. But nonetheless, this was a single cane kiki when I got it, so it has grown on. This is the latest cane, and quite honestly, those really do look like flower buds up here. So I reckon this is going to bloom in the spring if it gets the right winter treatment for the remainder of the winter. So January and February, this needs cold nights, and I reckon it will bloom. Now again, this is a Kingianum type cross. The blooms are, I believe they're white or incredibly pale pink. Probably one of the most fragrant dendrobiums you will ever come across. I've known a good specimen plant in a bucket like this because they can grow big. Not tall, but big. They grow out. They grow lots of new canes when they get going. And that particular plant of a friend of mine came into a show, and the people in the hall, this is a show hall, you know, Orchid Society show. And there were people with eyes watering where the fragrance was so powerful. People were walking in the door going, "Who's overdone the perfume then?" Staring at individual ladies It's not always the ladies that stink to high heaven, you know. There's some blokes overdo it as well. The old aftershave, splash it all over. Not me. Right, and then we come to this one, which is only just hanging in there. Had bad scale. I think I've dealt with that fundamentally. And this is being kept because it was a gift. And this is Spectabile, Dendrobium spectabile, and it has the most weird and beautiful blooms you can imagine, and that's why it's still here. Potentially it doesn't mind the cold as much as some of the others, but I mean, I've grown a nice new growth there and a nice new growth there, and I've just noticed on the end of my finger, apart from that scale, which is dead, oh goody, that is a bud. It's going to bloom unless it blasts. Now I did get blooms on this once. I had 2 nice spikes and I knocked one off. And since then it's never bloomed. So it's struggled since then. But, where did I just point that bud out? Oh, I thought I'd found a second one, but it's the same one. I turned the plant round. So we will get some blooms on that. I mean, you can Google that plant name and have a look at the blooms. They are quite stunning. They are quite stunning. And I think I've got the scale now. I don't see any active ones at all. So that should pull on better now. So that one's staying. That was on the borderline. Can it go? Shall it stay? Shall it stay? And I made the decision to keep it before I saw that bud. Right, and then in amongst all these, see what I mean about stuff falling over? All I did was touch it. You horror. Right, in amongst all these dendrobiums is a brassica. And this is Santa Barbara. This was split and repotted, and the idea was to get some new growths going and hopefully get them to bloom. That'll be next year, not this year. At the moment they're growing on. So this particular lead has got 2 new growths, loads of roots coming out. So this part of the plant is nice and healthy and nice and strong, and both of those growths should bloom. And then the other side of the plant has pushed out 1 new growth over here. But it has another one just starting there. Is that going to be a spike? No, not coming from there, I don't think. No, that'll be another growth. Yeah, so 3 new growths pushing on at roughly the same stage, could be in bloom at the same time, and another one just starting, which may or may not develop properly. But good root system, pot full of roots, and growing on nicely. Right, there's 2 left on this shelf. They're both dendrobiums and neither of them will stand up. And this one is only here. This came from Jeff's collection, and it had a tag on it and it was labelled. And if it was what it said on the label, it would have been the most stunning nobile I have ever seen, in shades of red, fiery orange and yellow. For a nobile that are mainly pinks and purples, yeah, a very strong colour. And that's the only reason I took it, because of what it said it was on the label. And then it bloomed and it wasn't. It wasn't anything like it. And it turned out that once it bloomed, we got on the internet, several people helped out with suggestions. Some were miles off, but there was some good ones as well, which I followed up. And we've established this is a, come on, brain, Phalaenopsis type. Yeah, so blooms at the apex mainly, potentially a bit lower down as well. This is the latest growth this year, far from finished growing, should get up to full size. The canes are beautiful because they've got purple stripes on them. Good, strong, sturdy plant, and won't stand up because I've taken the option of they grow best in the smallest pot possible. I now dispute that emphatically. I don't believe that is true. What I believe it is a secondary solution to people who are not so good with watering and tend to overwater. You can't overwater that. If I stood it in a bowl of water for 24 hours and lifted it out, it'll still be dry the next day because it's full of roots and there's hardly any media. So that cannot be overwatered. And that is what you're doing by saying it needs a small pot and grows best in a small pot. It doesn't. It's just that it might grow best for you in a small pot. That in the spring is going in a much, much bigger pot. Then it might flipping stand up. It really won't stand up, this one. Anyway, when we went on the internet, we actually found out that it was Dendrobium banana chocolate. I don't know where the chocolate came from. I don't think there's any dark brown on it. But now I've got to try and find somewhere to put this. It's going to tilt. It will do it. You need to get it in there so that it can just lean. Now you knock that one over. Right, one left, and this one is even worse. Even worse, this one. And it's going to go back where it comes from and not go on this table. Now this was incorrectly labelled, but I took it on anyway. It's grown into a monster. This cane is the latest growth. It has got a terminal leaf. It will bloom. And over here, he says, having just picked it up for the first time in a long time, because I've been watering lately with the sprayer, if we come over here onto this cane, we've got a bud. So that will be in bloom in the dim and distant. This again, I know this came from Jeff's collection just by looking at the potting media, because Marius repotted virtually everything that he took from Jeff's collection, and he put them all in a similar media, which is a combination of bark and these funny little, I think they're clay, they're like lacquer, but they're not all round, some of them are uneven. So I think that's mainly what he repotted stuff in. But everything I've taken back from Marius has grown on well, I must admit, so the media works. Yeah, so that is just a Dendrobium hybrid. It has no name. And when it blooms this time, which it's going to be a while because that spike's only just started, when it blooms this time we'll make an extra special effort to try and find out what the hell it is. At least get a name on it. It's grown an awful lot of roots out of the base. It's growing well. It's a huge, big, sturdy plant, but it is unwieldy, and that's when it's in a reasonable sized pot. So, but this big cane here will bloom next year. This one's going to bloom this year, and it may push out more buds than just that one. So we'll see what happens. I'm just going to take this back over. See, now the only way I can get this to stand up is to lean it against the wall. So this actually leans against the side of the conservatory, but it leans against a plastic bit, not against the glass, because if it leant against the glass, when we get the really cold nights, it'll burn the leaves with cold burn. So it's on the plastic, which has got insulation in, so it should be okay. And if I knock a few leaves off, then so be it. So that's that shelf. That's a mixed shelf, and as I've said, there are several in amongst there that are going to Carol. They will be, the theory is, I will check the weather on Sunday. Now this is only a thought, I don't know whether it will actually happen or not. On Saturday I'm going to get Hannah, and the plan is to do gardening. That's the plan. You can only do gardening if the weather complies. Now on Saturday it sounds like it's going to be rainy, showery, with some gaps. Well, we can get some stuff done in the gaps. Sunday at the moment sounds like it's going to be okay, because it sounds like the rain will have moved past us by the time we get up and have some breakfast and want to get out in the garden. Now if we get a good day, we will probably spend it gardening. But what I'd like to do is get Hannah to help me. I'll film it, but Hannah won't be in it because she won't come on camera. But we might try on Sunday, because we won't have a Sunday chat, you know, not with somebody down for the weekend. We might try, when I've checked the weather, that I need the weather okay from Monday to Wednesday. That's what I need. And if it looks as though it's going to be relatively mild, then I will get Carol's orchids in the post. And what I thought I could do is get the laptop out here, yeah, because that's got the list of all the plants that Carol's having. So I don't want to be thinking, I just want to do. And then we'll have a tray to put the compost in, and we'll have a tray to put the unpotted plants in. They're going to be wrapped in a bit of kitchen tissue with their tag wrapped inside probably, so that I don't have to muck about with sellotape and all that sort of stuff, and they can be laid in the bottom of a tray. And they can all be laid in the bottom of a tray, one on top of the other, until I've got a pile, and I then will know how big the box needs to be. I don't want to choose a box and find it's too big or not big enough, so we'll put them in a tray. And I'm hoping that what I can do is get Hannah to fetch the plants. So all I'll do is stand here, thank you, unpot, shake, 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 media in there like that, wrap the roots up, put it down. Next one, and we could go through them with that bit of help quite quickly. All I will need to do is remember where the hell they are, so that I can point her in the right direction. And then with the laptop here, I can tick them off as we go. That's the theory. It may or may not take place. So there's that. And what else was I going to say? My bonsai staging has had 2 coats, so one of the units is effectively finished now. I'm going to leave it into next week to make sure the stain is actually cured. In other words, it's fully dry. And then next week I shall put that one together and get that out in the back garden. And then I've got another one to do. So work will be going on with the bonsai staging in the background. And hopefully the garden will get a good hit this weekend. And what I need to do is get that end finished and bagged up and this area tidy. If we can do that, I'll be happy. Anything else we do will be a bonus. I'll be happy if we can get that done. And we have to go very careful, because to get at some of that lot out there, there is potentially a need to walk behind those bushes. And that's not a good place to walk, because pussycats go there. And when I say go there, I mean they go there. You really don't want to get that stuck on the bottom of your shoe, do you? Oh, let's end on a nice note, shall we? Anyway, see you next time. Thanks for dropping by. If you're not subscribed, it would be nice if you did so, and don't forget the old thumbs up. It all helps. I think we're about to click over the 13,400 subscribers. It's heading that way, I think, which is good. You know, the channel is slowly plodding along. It's never going to rocket, not in this arena. But it plods along, and as long as it's going upwards and not downwards, I'm happy. And I'm happy that you like to come and watch my videos. So see you next time. Thanks for dropping by. You're most welcome.